And we're live, Vanessa.
It's just as well we're live and not dead.
Well, I wanted to have a chance to help lots of people who don't know how to negotiate. They often feel like they're leaving money on the table, and it's an honor to have an Amazon best-selling author on a very important topic of making sure that you get paid what you're worth. And I would like to see if you can introduce yourself very quickly, so that people know and understand how you have like excellent knowledge on the subject.
Okay, so do you want me to tell my story then?
Sure, tell your
Why
story.
not? So I'm Vanessa Ugatti, as you can see. I'm known as the True Worth Expert, and I help service-based businesses be able to get paid their true worth consistently and unapologetically. And I often focus on the legal sector, but actually it's applicable to anybody in a service-based business. So why on earth do I do this? Nobody ever gets up in the morning and thinks, I know what I'll do. I'll teach people how to get paid their true worth. It's just not something that you would do. So I do actually have a story, and that is that I was helping professional services with mindset and confidence. And there was something niggling in the back of my mind, but I didn't know what the niggle was. So one day I was on the computer looking for inspiration, and I found a marketing program for coaches that said, you've got to have a niche. And I thought, well, I've heard this word niche, but I don't know what my niche is, and I certainly don't know how to create one. So after lots of trepidation and fear and what have you, I signed up for this program. And on one of the first workshops, they asked us to write down everything we were interested in, from our most little interest to our biggest interest. So I scribbled down mine. I can't remember any of them now, excepting this one subject of value or worth that appeared on the piece of paper. And I had no idea how it had got there. So the person running the workshop said, Vanessa, that is marketable. And I said, okay, you're the expert. Let me take a leap of faith and I'll go out networking. This is pre-COVID days. We're talking about 10 years ago now, when you had lots of professional people out there networking. And I asked them what their challenges were around charging, because at the time I knew nothing myself about the subject. And they quite quickly, they told me that they were challenged. They were underestimating or discounting or over-servicing clients, or even working with clients that weren't really great clients. So that was my first bit of evidence, a tick to say I must have been on the right track. But it was literally, when you're in a car and you're on a road that's not lit and you're driving along and all you see is a little bit of road in front of you, that is what was happening for me. So then I went back home and I looked at clients I'd been working with, and I discovered that I'd already been helping some of them with charging, although I consciously wasn't aware of the fact that I had. And so that was a bit of extra evidence for me, but it made sense to me when I realized it, because if you're helping people with mindset and confidence, charging is almost bound to come into that, because it's not a very comfortable subject for lots of people, shall we say. So then the
Right.
third thing that happened, did it make sense? Maybe not for you.
Yeah.
If you're a born salesperson, it's fine. But if you're not, for a lot of service-based businesses, it's a problem, because they're good at what they do, but that doesn't mean to say they're business-minded or they know how to be business-minded. So then I decided, fortunately, to shine the spotlight on myself. And that's when I discovered that I was clueless, hopeless, terrible, awful, embarrassed, talking about money, no clue about my value whatsoever. And at that point, I realized that it was my subconscious mind that had been saying to me, you need to do something about this, and this is the subject. It had come from my subconscious mind. I'd studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So once I saw that and realized that, it made perfect sense to me. Because if somebody can't, if I couldn't do it, I needed to learn to do it myself and then help other people do it. And the best person to help somebody else is somebody who's been through that pain and got through the other side. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So that's the backstory. And then the last bit, or the last two tiny bits of the story, is that, when you're in bed, half awake and half asleep, that sort of drowsy phase, doesn't
Hmm.
matter where people are in the world, it's a universal experience. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So that is when your conscious mind is actually asleep, but your subconscious mind is still awake.
Oh,
And what I called at the time a magic formula appeared in my mind. And that magic formula was UV, understand your value, plus CV, communicate your value, plus CD, confident delivering fees, equals CW, charging what you're worth. And when I saw it or perceived it, I don't know how else to say it, I knew what it meant and I knew it was right, but I didn't know how. And from that, with obviously, because I was on this program and I was being supported, I started creating stuff. And of course, going out talking to more people and eventually working with people, helping them on this subject matter. And then about 3 years ago, I realized with what I was doing was greater than the 3 parts of that formula. So I called it True Worth in the end, which was the title of the little book that I wrote, which is now called How to Get Paid Your True Worth. And each letter stands for something. Because obviously, although understand your value, communicate your value, and confident delivering fees are still part of that True Worth methodology, there's everything else from really right from the inquiry coming in right through to you getting paid. All aspects are covered. So that is my story. And I no longer have an issue talking about fees like I used to. And I do
well,
understand my value.
you're an expert in helping other people as well. So why do you think getting paid your true worth is so important when it comes to the health of a business or the employee's health?
Right, because the point is, if people have decided that they have a particular charge out rate, as I say, I'm mainly focused on service-based businesses, but even if they're a product-based business, that still applies because you've still got human beings involved in the process, in the sales process. The problem is when people don't charge properly, when they discount, when they overservice, when they work with clients who aren't really very good clients and don't value them, it means they're working too hard for too little money, and they're stressed and they're tired and they get resentful. So it impacts on their physical and mental well-being because they know they're doing it, but they can't stop themselves. So why do people do that? Because people are irrational, but that is what's happening. It's impacting on the health of the business because they're not bringing as much money in as they need to, and it's impacting on their own physical and mental health because they're not being kind to themselves, really.
Okay, and if certainly I think a lot of us that will resonate with a lot of us. Is there a focus, or what is the biggest challenge for, say, lawyers when it comes to facing how to charge their true worth?
So if you think about the fact that a lot of lawyers are employed and they are given their charge out rates or their headline rates, and so but nobody checks that those lawyers are actually confident sharing what their charge out rates are. So often there'll be something going on internally that says, I'm not very comfortable with that. I wouldn't want to have to pay that, is what I've also heard people say. So if they're not confident and comfortable with their own charge out rate, because they do not understand why it is the level it is, because in order to cover the costs of the business, etc., they have to charge a certain amount before they can even make a profit. They don't even understand that. So very often people will even lead a sales conversation with a discount. My normal rate is so-and-so, but I'll charge you this. Is that logical? No. Lawyers or human beings in general logical? The answer is no.
And why do you think this may have worsened since COVID?
Oh, why has it got worse since COVID? I suppose because there's been a lot of fear around, and also I think people will push back more on fees. I mean, I think it's not even COVID that's necessarily an issue now. It's more the state of the world, isn't it? And the economic situation. So if the economic situation is saying prices are going up, everybody's complaining about that. And what happens? Lawyers then discount. While everybody else is putting their prices up, they discount. But, other people might be discounting as well, because it comes down in the end to fear. And the fear is, I'm going to lose the business. But that whole fear thing of losing the business is really because the focus is on pricing and not on value. So if people would shift their mindset from thinking about the price to understanding what the value is of what they're providing and what result that gives to the client, then if they shift their thinking to value, then the client also shifts their thinking to value. But what happens often is people come in saying, "Oh, what do you charge?" And what does that mean? What do you charge? What do you get for what you charge? I mean, why just ask what you charge if you don't know what you're going to get for it? Because when you're talking about a service, you're not necessarily comparing like for like, or you're comparing apples with pears. It's not the same as saying, "Oh, look, this biro, this costs so much," and then you compare it with a Parker pen, which is a much better quality. Obviously, pen is going to be more expensive. You don't expect to get the Parker pen for the same as a biro. But because the service is intangible, people find that very difficult to explain because they don't focus on the results they're going to get with the client. So,
Okay.
does that make sense again?
Yeah, no, that's very clear. So what can one do about that? When to have that conversation about value rather than cost or price?
So you have to get in touch with what's going on in your own mind, because we are creatures of habit. So people do things the same as they've always done. So they'll be on a cycle of, oh, this is what it's going to cost to do this piece of work. They'll think in their head, oh, that's a lot to charge. Oh, in which case I'll knock some off because then I'll feel better. And then I'll say the price. I still don't feel very comfortable doing it. And then hopefully the client will accept it. So what you have to do is be willing to do something different. Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. Doing something different means getting in touch with what's going on in that subconscious mind of yours, and even the conscious mind, what you're saying to yourself, and be willing to say no to it or challenge it and say, is that really true? Because if you challenge a thought you're having that's a negative thought and say, is that really true? The chances are that you'll say, I don't know whether that's true or not, because the point is, you don't actually know what the client or the customer is thinking. You just pretend that you do. And I know from experience in my life that there have been times I've had meetings with people and I've thought, oh, that person won't work with me because they don't earn enough money right now. They won't pay my fees. And they've been the one who signed up. And somebody else who I've thought, well, actually, they shouldn't have a problem paying for it, have said no. So we honestly don't know what other people are thinking. And the other thing is, we can't believe what the monkey mind is telling us. So if the monkey mind is saying, that's a lot to charge, I can't possibly charge that, how can I justify my fees? You need to say, stop, let me focus on what is it that I'm doing for my client or this prospect? What results will they get? How will their business or their life be different after I've helped them with whatever this problem is?
Okay.
So you have to. So it's like getting out of the subconscious patterns, which is like the child behaving, into the conscious mind, which is the adult, and thinking rationally. Because when people are in a state of emotion, there's a great expression that I came across some time ago, and that was, when emotion is high, intelligence is low. So when we're feeling fearful, that means emotion is high. So our intelligence, our conscious mind, our logical mind is low. And we're just reacting out of an automatic old pattern of behavior. So you have to get out of that.
Well, there's a question that I've been thinking that you answered in another conversation, Vanessa. And one time when I speak to some, I guess, other clients or other people here in Barcelona, after COVID, they were so desperate to build their revenue, and because they had lost so much business, they wanted to get every possible opportunity to monetize, even if it was less than they would normally charge. So would it make sense to grab every bit of work that you can, no matter what price it is? I know the answer, but if you can please articulate why and how you have to be careful, that would be great.
So the challenge is, it's a great question. Thank you for that, Victor. But the challenge is, if you do that, you are seeing yourself on a downward spiral all the time. And you create resentment towards your clients, because you're taking the work on, you're doing it at minimum. You may even be just breaking even. You may not even be making a profit, and resentment creeps in. And I was running a training session for a law firm in Nottingham 2 or 3 weeks ago, and one of the people on that training program was in that situation where he was always undervaluing himself, underestimating, working too hard. And he said, I feel resentment towards my clients. And I said, that is one of the most unpleasant energies that you can experience, feelings that you can experience. And he got the shift in the training that it was really about valuing himself, and it was better to be charging more. Okay, that he was very busy, you could say. But the point is, when you're in that negative space, you're projecting negativity onto your clients. And when you're discounting and taking on work, regardless of the price, you're devaluing yourself, and you're making yourself not feel good about you. And so how do you then get yourself into a place where you start charging normally again? Or when would you do that? Because your default position will always then be, I'll just keep discounting until they say yes.
Well, one of the challenges, I understand completely what you're saying. One of the challenges that we see here in Barcelona and Spain in general, there's a number of services that I don't understand how they can be so inexpensive. And sometimes you can use kind of price, it's not a good one, but to discern between higher quality and lower quality, or people who are new to the sector. For example, with lawyers, I know so many lawyers that have tons of experience and charge almost the same as people who have 1 or 2 years experience. But if you maintain a higher price and want to be true to your value, I guess the concern is, do you price yourself out of that market, or that constant fear that you're not going to win the business? How do you address that?
So I think it's a question, I'm always getting this thing about market, because there's always more than one market. And I can tell you, it doesn't matter where you are anywhere, there are also a huge range of people at different prices. So it's about making a decision about where you want to put yourself. I don't mean you personally, but whoever the person is, where you want to pitch yourself and say, look, these are the people I'm looking to work with. These are the type of people, the people who get and understand that what working with me will bring for them. And they're who I'm pitching to. I'm not pitching to all and sundry. And that's another reason why that whole thing of not grabbing every bit of work that comes along is good, because you need to be discerning. Part of my True Worth methodology is eliminate pie to clients. Be discerning in who you take on, because actually there are always people out there who do want to pay, but there are lots of people who don't. So isn't it better to be focused on those who want to pay and perhaps work with less people, but provide a better service and be paid better, than trying to do everything for everybody, make more mistakes, do it badly, and be in constant fear and worry about making mistakes?
Okay, and so if people would like to be better at this, they can come to you. And what is it exactly that you do? How can somebody avail themselves of your services so they can charge what they're truly worth?
Well, I work with individuals, but I also work with firms as well. So it depends. If we're talking about an individual, then they need to, first of all, just fill in a little discovery form that I send them, so I get a feeling for where they're at, to see whether there's any value in working with me. One thing is for sure, Victor, I never work with somebody or a firm even, unless I genuinely feel that I have value to bring, because that is also one of my top values. Why would we want to try and help somebody if we genuinely can't, or if I don't think they're a good fit? So I like to see who it is, who the person is, what is it that they're doing, where they're losing money, and what it's costing them as well, emotionally and physically. Tiredness, sleeping badly, relationship stuff, whatever, because it's about the whole person. It's not just about the money.
Okay. And one last question. What do you think is the biggest mistake that people do in trying to figure out their true worth?
What's the biggest mistake they make in trying to figure out their true worth?
Yeah.
Or trying to apply it?
Well, apply it to come up with a figure that properly reflects the value that they're offering to their clients?
Oh, that's not an easy question to answer. I don't know about what's the biggest mistake. The thing is, it's not an exact science. As I said, that in any type of business or any market, there's a range of people charging different amounts of money. So, obviously their expenses are going to determine it. Their experience will determine it. The results they get will also determine it. And how they feel about themselves will determine it. And I think that's a big one, because that isn't quantifiable. If somebody thinks, oh, I can't charge that, they won't charge it. I think I've already said that. So they could be the best lawyer in town who's not charging as much as somebody else who's not as good as them, who's charging more than them. So I think it's really about making sure that where you're pitching yourself is a reflection of the results you're getting, and you have to get out of your own emotion so that's not getting in the way of it. And of course you want to check potentially the market, but I can tell you, people I've worked with, they've checked their marketplace and they've said everybody varies. So who knows what the right price is? It's actually what you decide for yourself you're worth.
Well, this is all very helpful. And I was hoping you could also share with people how they can get in touch with you to understand how, to speak with the True Worth expert herself.
So I have a website, thetrueworthexpert.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, of course, Vanessa Ugatti. There's only one Vanessa Ugatti in the world, so I shouldn't be difficult to find. I've not found another one with my name, so I hope there's nobody else out there who claims to have that name. And, if you could drop me a message or an email, and I will get back to you ASAP. I'm going on holiday for a few days next week, but other than that, I'm around and happy to answer your questions. And if you think, actually, I really would like to explore this, then I'll send you a little discovery form, which takes only a couple of minutes to complete.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa. We will be in touch with you, and I'm certain that I have some people that will want to chat with you to improve their how to articulate their value, as well as be more comfortable in understanding their true worth. So thank you so much, and enjoy your vacations.
Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you.
All righty. Take care.